Welcome on the channel Nice Stories. Today we have intriguing story about
I am 32 years old, and I was married to my wife Kate, who is 30. For 4 years, we had been together for 9 years. Our relationship had always been amazing, full of love and support. We communicated well, rarely argued, and our intimate life only got better over the years. We had discussed infidelity in the past, and I was always clear that if it ever happened, our relationship would be over. Last weekend, Kate went to visit her family, which was quite normal. Before she left on Friday night, we had a minor argument about keeping the house tidy, so our communication on Saturday was limited. I knew she was going out to meet some friends at a bar. I trusted her completely, so I didn't think much of it. Before going to bed, I sent her a message saying I hope she had a nice night. When I woke up on Sunday morning, I saw a missed call from Kate at 4 a.m. I immediately called her back to make sure she was okay, but she didn't answer. After several attempts to reach her, I received a message saying she was fine and would be driving back soon. Kate returned home late in the afternoon and looked terrible. It was clear she had been crying. She wasn't wearing any makeup, which was unusual for her, and she looked like a shadow of herself. I knew right away that something was wrong, but she wouldn't let me hug her and barely spoke. I sat her down on the couch and made her some tea. I gently asked her to tell me what had happened. She burst into uncontrollable tears for at least 10 minutes while I tried to comfort her. Then, stopping every few words, she confessed to me that she had slept with someone the night before after the bar. At that moment, something inside me broke. I can't describe it any other way. I immediately stood up, got into my car, and drove off. I went to a park and walked around for about an hour. Kate was constantly calling my phone, but I turned it off. When I got home, I grabbed 2 suitcases from the garage and went up to our bedroom. I threw some of Kate's clothes and shoes into them and left them by the front door. Kate was lying on the floor in the living room, curled up into a ball, sobbing. I called her best friend, who lives nearby, and told her that Kate needed help and a place to stay, and that Kate could explain everything to her later. I told Kate I was leaving for an hour and that her friend was coming to pick her up. She grabbed onto my legs, trying to stop me from leaving. When I returned home again, Kate was gone, and so were the suitcases. On Monday, with a clearer head, I answered one of Kate's many calls and told her that I needed her to send me an email with as many details as possible about that night, and if she left anything out, there would be no hope of reconciliation. I received the email on Monday night but haven't opened it yet. Since then, everyone has been trying to contact me, but I've just been working, exercising, and sleeping. One of her friends showed up at my house with an attitude, demanding an explanation. I told her to speak to Kate and closed the door in her face. I've also been speaking to divorce lawyers, moved money into separate accounts, and blocked Kate and all her friends on everything. Everything I've done since I found out seems like I've been on autopilot. I don't feel angry, upset, or overly emotional, just numb. Kate left a note under the door yesterday, asking me to meet with her tomorrow, but I'm conflicted. Should I meet her? Will it change anything? Is there any point in trying to reconcile? Is it normal to feel like a robot? And how do I snap out of this state? After reading some advice, I decided to meet with Kate but not read the email. Kate came to the house yesterday, and when I opened the door, she looked terrible. She tried to hug me and started mumbling apologies, but I stopped her, and we sat down to talk. I began by telling Kate that I would be recording our conversation, and she agreed. I then asked her to explain what happened and told her that I hadn't read the email she sent. Kate said she had been at the bar with 2 friends, I know and like both of them, and told me what she had to drink. I was surprised at how little she drank because it was the same amount we would normally have when going out for dinner, a few glasses of wine and a cocktail. She admitted she was only slightly tipsy. One of her friends, Sarah, has a younger brother named Max, 27M, who came to pick them up around midnight. It's a running joke in their group that Max has had a major crush on Kate since high school, and I had heard them joke about this. The 4 of them went to get some food. and Max then dropped each one off until it was just him and Kate. Kate said she didn't want him to drive the 20 minutes to her parents' place after working all day, so she decided to order an Uber from his apartment. She went into his apartment to order the Uber but couldn't get one. Max suggested she should crash in his bed and he would take the sofa. He would then drop her off in the morning. Kate refused and continued to try to find an Uber. They were sitting on Max's bed, and he kissed her. She kissed him back, and they ended up having sex. After that, she broke down crying from guilt, and Max took her home. She cried for another hour, then tried to call me to tell me what she had done. We had to stop several times because Kate kept breaking down and crying hysterically. She told me it was a huge. I decided to read the email and wish I hadn't. The story Kate told in the email was mostly the same, but there was no mention of going into Max's apartment to order an Uber. There were also pretty explicit details of what they did, for how long, and that they apparently used a condom. I will never be able to forget this description. Many people who were originally criticizing me for kicking Kate out of the house have now apologized, but they can keep it. Kate's parents reached out to apologize, and I spoke to them because we had a good relationship before all of this. They begged me to try to work it out but said they understood if I decided to get divorced. I didn't commit to either option. Kate's other friend, who was there that night, contacted me to tell me her side of the story. It mostly matched up: bar, food, home. She said Kate could stay over at her house, but she refused, saying she was driving home early the next morning. Max apparently insisted that he would take Kate home. The version of the story she told didn't mention Kate trying to get an Uber, only that Max invited her in and she accepted. I asked her if she had ever suspected anything before, and she told me that about a year ago. She went to meet Kate for coffee but found Max sitting with her when she arrived. Apparently, Kate looked guilty, but when asked about it, she said they just met by chance. Sarah, Max's sister, also reached out to me, and I spoke to her too. She was angry with both Max and Kate and told me a similar story. Apparently, her whole family is angry with Max, and she has not spoken to Kate since she found out. She apologized on behalf of her idiot brother and said she had warned him to stay away from Kate since high school. She didn't think anything else had happened between them. I have had zero contact from Kate but heard that she was moving into an Airbnb near our house. Apparently, she is not coping well and called in sick from work a few times over the last few weeks. She does have support from the friend she is currently living with, and I asked her parents to keep an eye on her. Her parents came up to see her this past weekend. I went out with some friends over the weekend and ended up drunk at a bar. I was talking to a girl there whom I probably could have gone home with, but I stopped myself because I wanted to keep my self-respect. Reading the email and hearing what they had done made me give up hope of repairing this, especially when I know she is not being truthful with me on other things. So who knows? I will be moving ahead with the divorce and might not even wait a month before telling Kate that this is my final decision. I debated posting this update, but a lot of people seem to be invested in this mess, so here it is. Kate sent me an email last week asking to pick up some things she needed for work. My lawyer told me not to prevent her from having access to the house or her possessions, so I reluctantly agreed that she could come over on Thursday night when I would be at the gym. I told her to be out by 7:30, but when I got home at 8, she was still there. When I walked in, she had left a few work-related items next to the stairs and was chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked amazing with her hair and makeup done, wearing one of the dresses I like. The whole place had been tidied and cleaned. I calmly asked her to leave immediately, and she made her way to the door but stopped and asked if we could speak. I should have said no, but I eventually agreed. We sat down and had a conversation for around an hour, which jumped from topic to topic. Again, I told her I would record the audio, and she agreed. I started by asking her if she had kept her side of the agreement we made the last time we spoke. She said she had taken an STI test, which was all negative, mine was too, thankfully, and a pregnancy test, which was negative. She hadn't been with anyone else and also told a few friends and family what happened, and many of them were angry and were not speaking to her. I asked a lot of questions that had been turning over in my mind for the last few weeks. She confirmed that her reason for going into Max's apartment, the Uber story, was false, and she said he invited her in for a drink, and she agreed. Knowing at some level that something was going to happen, she can't explain why she did this other than being selfish and enjoying the attention. She also confirmed that she had texted with Max a few times over the years because he would shower her with compliments and make her feel good. He would always initiate, and she was apparently careful not to lead him on and said she had never sent him explicit messages or pictures. Kate also told me that they had hooked up about 6 months before we got together but never had sex. She admitted that she was always a bit curious. Her story about being caught at the coffee shop was that Max had texted her asking what she was up to, and she had told him where she was. He then showed up. She swore this was the first time they had ever done anything since we had been together. She said there was nothing missing in our relationship, and she hates herself for ruining our perfect marriage and causing me so much pain. I told her that I still didn't believe her story and that there was no point in continuing the conversation. She calmly asked what she would need to do to make this right, offering up her phone, location sharing, not going out without me, etc. She had clearly been doing some research. I said that I had no plans to become her prisoner. She said we could have as many threesomes as I wanted from now on, or we could be open on my side only, and she would even find partners for us/me. She was trying very hard to entice me, and I stayed silent until she asked whom I wanted to have a threesome with. For some reason, I mentioned the name of her co-worker, who was 5 years younger than Kate and absolutely stunning. This surprised her, but she was in too deep and asked me what I wanted to do with her. I went into detail about a pretty extreme scenario, and Kate was encouraging me until I said that she would just be watching. This again caught her off guard, but she went along with it. Later on, I realized that I only said all of this as a petty attempt to hurt Kate, which I don't feel good about. She was obviously convinced that her plan was working, so she pulled up her dress and got into my favorite position on the couch, begging me to be intimate with her. I'll admit that for a few seconds, my body reacted even though my head was not in it. Everything suddenly came into focus, and the content of her email came flooding into my mind. I can't explain why, but I started to laugh, not just a chuckle but a full-on belly laugh. She looked hurt, moved away, and then started to cry. I told her it was time for her to go, and she left quickly, probably due to embarrassment. I also said she needed to hurry up and get a lawyer because we are getting divorced. The clarity after she left confirmed that I had dodged a bullet. I have a meeting with my lawyer later this week and want to move forward with the divorce as quickly as possible. I thought I would provide a final update on the situation for anyone that is interested. The last few months have been tough, and I have only seen Kate in person a handful of times. After a few weeks of no contact, I decided that we should discuss things with a clearer head. We went for lunch and had a calm, respectful conversation about everything that had happened and what reconciliation might look like. Kate said she would do anything to get things back on track, and I believe her but didn't commit to anything. After that, Kate asked me to go with her to see her therapist, who was also experienced in dealing with married couples. I thought about it for a few days before agreeing. The session was tough, with a lot of tears, but I didn't get a straight answer on why Kate had decided to cheat. The therapist was surprisingly fair to both of us and was not judgmental. We again discussed reconciliation, but I told her that I thought it was best to proceed with the divorce. Last week, I drove up to her parents' house to drop off some tools I had borrowed from her dad. We had arranged for Kate to be there and for her parents to go out for a few hours to give us a chance to talk. I spoke with her parents alone, who were heartbroken, which was hard, but they were both very supportive. During the conversation with Kate, I told her clearly that I had given it a lot of thought but that I wanted to move ahead with the divorce. It came down to the fact that, in my view, we would never get back to where we were, and I realistically can't see myself ever getting over the betrayal. Even if we could regain the trust, it could take a decade of hard work, and that is too big of a risk for me. Kate finally accepted this, and we had a calm discussion about how we would divide assets, sell the house, etc., and wrote an email to our respective lawyers. We left each other on good terms. The divorce should be finalized by the end of the year. and the house will be put up for sale soon. In the meantime, we will go no contact and agreed not to start dating until everything is finalized. I have had a few casual dates, and it feels strange to be going back to being single after all this time. I have been hitting the gym, spending a lot of time with friends and family, and getting back into my hobbies. I'm optimistic about the future, and although I'm still devastated by the loss of my marriage, I feel that this has made me grow as a person. Thanks to those of you who have offered advice and support.